So what was your first ever job?
Coming up to my 14th birthday, I wanted a BMX, and they were like, we can't afford the BMX, like £210, but if you get half of the money, we'll pay the other half. We lived on this estate, and in the middle there was a green, like there is in most estates, and part around the green was a load of cars, and I went down with a bucket and sponge, and I just thought I'll wash a car. Anyway, my stepdad came in my room, and he said, do you want anything? And something made me give him everything I'd earned that day to get another bucket and a sponge. And within 4 weeks, I had 4 friends washing cars, and I wasn't washing cars. I was just knocking on the door, making the sales, getting the money. You know, I got enough for the bike within 7 weeks, you know, and that was amazing.
Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming down today. You know, I appreciate you've come quite far. So.
I think this is the furthest I've ever come north of London on the tube.
For a podcast.
Forever.
Well, you're an entrepreneur. You help people create their own wealth. Mm-hmm. You're also a trader.
Yep.
But I'd like to know where your entrepreneurial journey started for you.
Yeah, my entrepreneurial journey you say I'm an entrepreneur. When I was, it was only about 5 or 6 years ago that I was told I was entrepreneurial for the first time, and that was by my accountant. And I was like, I don't know, am I? You know, I didn't really know, I didn't consider myself an entrepreneur. But when I kind of started looking up definitions of what an entrepreneur is, it wasn't necessarily having like a skill. I guess it is a skill, but it was more to do with like getting people on board with your vision and influencing people into the bigger, mission that you was on. You was trying to achieve something, you was using leverage, and you was pulling strings, and you was kind of getting people on board to actually help you move forward with this, even though you weren't necessarily doing the work yourself. And I thought, yeah, I definitely got elements of that. And then from then, I started thinking about why I'm that way. And why, you get this whole, are they born, are they made, and all that kind of thing. And I think a lot of it stems back from just your drivers based on what you think was missing as a kid. Like I genuinely believe that when you're young, you have things that you think are missing in your life, and whatever you feel is missing in your life, you then raise on your priorities throughout the rest of your life to never have that void, basically. So for me, when I think about the times as a kid that things I perceived to be missing was security, and whether that's financial or just secure, stable house, or money, or just control over what's going on. And as a kid, I didn't have any of that. We had bailiffs on the door, and
really,
my dad had left, and he was bad news, and and we were going from place to place, and we had no money, basically. So I think I valued security ultimately. So that I think that those values drive you into a certain place in life, and I think that made me entrepreneurial. But really, it's just, how can I have security? How can I be financially stable? How can I be liked and help other people? That was part of it as well. It's like, because if your dad leaves you, maybe there's some kind of subconscious there that like gives you this striving need to want to perform for people and get accepted for people, and acceptance and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that was all part of it. So it's really fascinating, but I've really enjoyed like learning why I'm like I am, and yeah, it all started when I was a kid. That's what I think.
So what was your first ever job?
My first ever job, the first ever way I made money was I was 13 years old. And I lived on a block of flats in Morden in South London, which is like the opposite place to here. But it was called Hatfield Mead. And every Friday there used to be, everyone like congregated on the foot of our block, like it was like the local meeting place, and like a mother's meeting. And I was one of these nosy kids that was just always asking like, why? And everyone used to moan about money, and like, it was the whole like, rich people. And, it wasn't just about that, but I used to pick up on this idea that rich people were, evil and greedy and, the money thing and money's horrible, money's the root of all evil and all that. And I remember picking up on that because the reason I picked up on that, because this guy called Roy used to come down and he used to take everyone's money and do a syndicate lottery. And for about 5 minutes after he'd taken their money, they would all their faces would light up about how they would spend the money if they won and what their life would look like. And I just remember thinking, this is weird. There's a conflict there that I don't get it. Why are you saying it's evil and then you're like, it's the best thing? And I just didn't understand it. So coincidentally that year, coming up to my 14th birthday, I wanted a BMX, a Mongoose Sniper from a shop in Sutton. And I said it was my birthday coming up in October, and I said, look, can I please have this BMX for my birthday? And they were like, we can't afford the BMX, like £210, but if you get half of the money, we'll pay the other half. And I was like, deal, I'll go and earn £100 somehow. I didn't have a clue how. But we lived on this estate, and in the middle there was a green, like there is in most estates, and part around the green was a load of cars. And I went down with a bucket and sponge, and I just thought I'll wash a car. Spent all day washing this one car for a lady called Lynn. And she gave me £5. It was a Volkswagen Golf, white one. And she gave me £5 plus £2 tip. And I was like over the moon because I went up into my room that night. I was telling my friend about it and how I was going to have this bike in no time, basically. And he was saying, do you want me to help you? And I was like, well, I don't really want to pay you. I want to kind of get this money quickly for the bike. Anyway, my stepdad came in my room and said, I'm going down to Safeway or whatever the shop was back then. And he said, do you want anything? And something made me give him everything I'd earned that day to get another bucket and a sponge. And the next day, me and my friend washed 4 cars. And within 4 weeks, I had 4 friends washing cars, and I wasn't washing cars. I was just knocking on the door, making the sales, getting the money. And I was taking a smaller piece of the money, but not doing anything. And because I was able to do that, it was like I'd discovered fire. Like I felt like this is why everyone's miserable with money. Because it's not the fact that it doesn't provide you a better life. It actually... they're using it the wrong way. They're investing it the wrong way. If you invest it the right way, you have more free time to do more of the things that you like, and you have options, and you can build a lot more wealth quicker. And I got enough for the bike within 7 weeks, and that was amazing. So that was a big lesson for me, and I took that forward into the world after that, into work. This whole idea that actually leverage. You can actually use money a certain way using delegation and things like that, and systems and processes to have more free time but still earn money. And that was just some belief that I went into the workforce with, which I don't think many people have that fortune. It was lucky for me to have that kind of turning point at 13 years old. But I remember it, and I think that was the first way I earned money, but that was also a big turning point in how I approach things after that. Yeah.
So why do you think there is a stigma with people wanting to make money? What do you think that's about?
People wanting to make money.
Yeah. Or wanting to make money is almost a bad thing.
Yeah. People think that money's a bad thing, and I think it's because they see money being enjoyed by people who they feel haven't earned it, maybe. But, I've never met a billionaire who hasn't served millions of people. I've never met a millionaire who hasn't served thousands of people. It is literally, the money is there in circulation for you to take as much of it as you like. There's only a certain amount of currency and it flows, and whoever's providing value can take as much of it as they want. And you get as much as you tolerate. So that's the reality. Money is a medium for fair exchange. It was invented for, I'll give you this service and you give me something in return. And obviously you go back to bartering times before money was created. It's like, I've got a rip in my shirt, can you fix it for me? And then it's like, well, what's in it for me? And I say, well, my mum might need open heart surgery, and I know you've spent years figuring out how to do that. So if she ever needs heart surgery, can you help with that? Well, is that fair? Well, it's not, because there's always going to be some people want to work harder than others. So there has to be a medium for fair exchange. and money was that medium. So it's, you put out what you're willing to put out, and you'll be paid perfectly by the market for what you're worth. It's the most fairest game in town. Money is the fairest thing in the world because that's what it was created for. Yeah. So I think people struggle with that because they're lazy and they can't be bothered to do the work. So then they say money's evil. These people have got it easy. That's it. In actual fact, it's the fairest thing ever.
I'm not sure if it's also people see it as a greed thing as well. Is that how much money do you actually need in life? But going to your point about being of service, I didn't realise how powerful that was until I actually went out on my own.
Right.
And I think culturally it always reminds me, like my parents are quite accommodating people.
Yeah.
So being of service is something that comes quite natural, but I didn't realise how powerful it was in the entrepreneurial world actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you've got a desire to serve people, you're going to do very well regardless, because ultimately if you want to get a result for someone or you want to serve someone in some way, that's how you get money for a start. I think people overcomplicate how we actually get money, and there's only there's one way to get it, and that's from another human, right? So we're the only people that use money for a start, so you can only get money from other humans. And there's only two ways you can get it. You either beat them at a skill that they've agreed to take part in, like boxing, and you enter an arena where you say, I'm going to use this skill I've developed, and you use that skill you've developed, and whoever wins is going to take all, and that's fair. Or the easiest way is you serve them, and you say, I'm going to sew your thread, and you perform open heart surgery and I'll pay you. That's it. And you pay what you perceive that to be worth. So this whole idea around that's expensive or that's a rip-off really just comes from your own perceptions on what you're willing to pay for that service, and what it means to you, right? So when you said about greedy, everyone's got an idea of how much they want, and it will be serving their own personal needs and desires, right? So for me, for instance, there was a time where I wanted to become a millionaire, and then we go past that, and then you go, you're on this quest to provide ultimate wealth and legacy and all that kind of stuff. I'm 42 now, and now I'm considering enough's enough. Like I was in Dubai recently, sat around a table on a yacht with like a couple of billionaires, and they're all talking about, you've got to get more and more money. And I'm like, well, how much is enough? And they're like, well, it'll just provide even more security for my kids and my kids' kids. And I'm like, I don't care about my kids' kids' kids. That's not up to me to look after my kids' kids' kids. I've got a little life that I've got to live and enjoy. Like I'll bring them up in a way where hopefully they can look after them. Yeah. But that's not my job. Who wants a load of entitled little offsprings running around? That's I don't believe that's doing good in the world at all. So you get to a point where you think, now I'm living a life where I love the challenge, love the ups and downs. This is enough. I've completed the game. I don't have any massive aspirations or goals. This is it. My life now is amazing, and I'll do this till I die. Tinker with stuff until I die. That's my.
It's good though, because you end up appreciating the value of things by earning it yourself.
Absolutely.
But it's also good to know when to come off of that train and like say, okay, I've lived that journey, I've lived that, now I want to try something, because it doesn't have to necessarily all be about making money.
No,
that entrepreneur mindset can be just as simple as helping people.
Yeah, and obviously there's different ways to manage the money that you make, which will have a massive contributing factor to how wealthy you are. You can earn all them. A lot of entrepreneurs that I work with, they're great at earning money. They earn loads of money, but they've got to earn it again next week. Otherwise, they can't pay their bills. And I've worked with YouTubers. They're doing 250 grand a month with nothing, and they've got to figure out another idea for another YouTube video, so that and you think, where's all this money going? And that is purely because there's making money and building wealth are two completely different studies, and if you master them both and you understand them both, you're going to have it all. But if you only know how to make money, you're going to have a very stressful life. And if you only know how to build wealth but not necessarily make a lot of money, you're going to end up quite resentful and maybe have a midlife crisis because you get to 60 years old and you can retire, but you haven't lived. So there's a balance, definitely. And I feel like I've been very conscious of that balance throughout my mid to late 30s, and now going into my 40s. It's more about how can I really make the most of this life now, and my life, not necessarily building legacies and things like that. That's great. That's all in place, and I'll have a legacy just with my personal brand and my messages, and maybe that will live on. But for me, it's like, I want to die with zero regrets, and that's what it's about for me.
Yeah, fair.
Definitely.
That's fair. So did you ever actually work for a company, or were you an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I left school, and the easiest thing, I wanted to be a fireman, but the easiest thing that landed in my lap was to go and work with my stepdad, who was an electrician.
Oh. Okay.
And I thought, well, I'll go and become an electrician, I'll go to college, get that sorted, and when I get to the fire brigade when I'm 18, I'll be able to do 4 days on, 4 days off, and I'll be able to do the thing. So I was already thinking, like, how can I maximize the money and all that kind of stuff. And I had a strong work ethic, and I worked hard, so I went and done that. And then by the time I got accepted into the fire brigade, I was earning more money. It didn't make sense financially. So I had to let the fire brigade go and then just go full in, but I knew I didn't want to be on the tools. So then it was like, what do I need to do? So I just went hammer and tong at working my way up into designing control systems and software. And then I moved up until I was basically running the company that all of my stepdad and all these friends were working for. And then I left there and started my own one of those.
Electrical company.
Yeah. So just so I could... I didn't start it to build it into an empire. I started it to become financially free. I started it so I can control my income, to increase my income every year, so that I could put more into my investments. So I was at that place by the time I started my own business. I started a business to abuse it and make it and pay myself
cash cow, essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And with that comes a load of problems as well, because I'm naturally hardworking, we created a good business. So word of mouth, and you get lots of work, and then you need more staff, but you can't afford to pay more staff because you're paying all your money to yourself. And, it's like with that comes its own challenges as well. So, yeah, that's basically what I did. And then I got to a point where I went into speculation to kind of accelerate this journey to financial independence. And after about 3.5 years of being down that rabbit hole, I literally could walk away from the company, and that was it.
Is that what created the opportunity for you to become financially free in the process?
It was definitely a contributing factor, but I was also passively investing, things like, I had a whole plan from like 22 on how to replace my income in 20 years. And then my goal was to then reduce that down as quickly as possible. So it started with index funds and ETFs, and then it went to real estate investment trusts, and it went to large cap stocks, and it went to medium cap stocks, and then it went to starting a business so I could control my income and grow that and put more into all of that I was already doing. I was increasing my savings and investments every 3 months. So there was this whole complex kind of strategy behind it. And then it got to the point where we was in the business, it was becoming very stressful. So I wanted to speed it up even more. So I started looking at options trading, and then I was looking at online poker. And then after blowing about 40 grand on financial markets, I sort of went full in on that. And I'd learned a lot of lessons blowing that money. And from that point, it was a very short run to replacing my income. That's all I had to do, is replace my income, right? It wasn't, become a millionaire or have millions. It was basically, I just need to replace this actual income I've got right now with my semi-passive and passive income streams that I'm getting from other investments and dividends and trading.
So what got you into trading?
The fact that it was a higher speculation vehicle, so I could get higher returns. So I was just looking at all different things that would... at the time, I was getting between 12 and 16% per year, and I needed, based on what I had in that account, I needed something that would move that up to about 18 to 22% per year on average. And for that, obviously, the higher speculation, the higher the skill, the higher the returns, right? So I was looking at things where I could just beat someone at a game, and that's where I was looking at poker, and that's where I was looking at trading, because trading's literally boxing. Like, it's like, I've got a skill, you've got a skill, let's beat the market, and that's what I went into, and blew a lot of money doing it. Very stressful, probably the closest I've come to disowning my family or
Really?
divorce and all that. It was a stressful time. It was a tough time, and it paid off.
And what was the kind of year process for when you actually saw a good return in the end? How long did it take you?
3.5 years.
About 3.5 years.
Yeah, 3.5 years. I mean, it should have been quicker, but I went down all the same rabbit holes everyone else goes down. Try that, try this, try that. Follow this, follow that, download this. I'd done all that and blew all the money, and then after about 3.5 years, I did my first profitable 12 months consecutively. Not major, but it gave me what I needed. And then from then on, it just grew. So,
and did you ever have much mentorship along this entrepreneurial journey?
Mentorship, yeah. So when I think about mentors, maybe my first mentor was my old boss called George Turnbull. I used to ride to work with him up London. We used to come up here in a van, and we used to have arguments and debates on the way to work. And he's one of these guys that had done everything. He'd tried his hand at everything. He'd built doors and been a mechanic and built houses, and he was a great engineer, and he'd done everything in his life. And he was someone who taught me a lot about how clients work, what they want, this whole concept of delivering and going above and beyond to get a result, no matter how much it might not be commercially viable, just get the result for someone. And he got me around this idea of thinking, like, get paid on results. That was it. It was like, get paid on results. Don't charge for your time. Don't charge per hour. Just get a result, and people will pay for that result. And now we look at a world where, this was years ago, and now you look on Instagram and you go, that guy's a good video editor. I just want that result. And you pay him. There's no CV. There's no hourly rate discussed. It's just, I just want this result. I want you to do that for me. You get a wedding photographer. I want that look on my wedding album. You pay them. That's it. There's no discussion of, I'll do this for £22 an hour and do this and that. It's not. So I never had this exchange time for money mentality ever from, since I was an electrical apprentice, when I was getting like 80 quid a week.
I suppose the key then is to have top-notch quality to charge a top-notch price then in the process.
Exactly that. You go above and beyond to just deliver and over-deliver, and then there's no question. And with that comes recommendation, with that comes demand. Demand outpays supply, and therefore you charge higher prices, and you've got a big waiting list, and you're oversubscribed. And that's basically how I've built every single business since. Yeah.
It was quite interesting because that's how I actually started my entrepreneurial journey is serving people, giving loads of value. But I think one of the issues that I found, which maybe other people might struggle with, is understanding your self-worth, your value, what you should be, and, where that mark is between being overpriced and underpriced, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's the hard challenge to kind of get right. Do you feel like you got that right most of the time, or?
I think just being aware of that exists is a good thing. The fact that you've just said that, not a lot of people are even aware of that, and they'll go out to their friends and give them freebies or charge less for their friends and all that stuff. I'm never one of them. I've always said, to my family, your family should pay more. They're supporting your business. It's not like a charity.
I understand that.
And you should charge more for them. They should understand. So self-worth, I think, is a thing where you've got this kind of imposter syndrome where you don't feel like what you've got to offer is worth what you're charging. But there's also a price which you'll start working at, and you'll get paid that price, and you'll become resentful because you think, I'm worth more than that. It's taking the mick, right? So then it's somewhere in between there that you want to get the price in. Right?
Yeah, that's fair.
And the best way to do it, to not feel like you're overcharging but also get paid more than what you wanted initially, is to value stack your business. Like literally just put loads of value stack items that aren't going to necessarily cost you personally too much time or money, but make it a no-brainer for the person buying it. So, for instance, if I was to, pull out my phone, I think Russell Brunson used the example of saying, right, this is an iPhone, who wants to pay 10 grand for it? And everyone knows that they're £1,000, right? But then he says, well, what if I add in every ebook that I've created and every book that I've read and every contact number of every billionaire that I've got and and at some point, someone's going to put their hand up. So everyone perceives that value of being worth 10 grand at some point. It will be different with everyone. Okay. But you throw enough stuff on there and eventually everyone's hand will go up, right? Didn't cost him any more money to give the phone away for 10 grand. Mm-hmm. So it's this idea that you've got a lot of value inside of you that you can package up into this product that people will perceive to be cheap, actually, at some point. Mm. And then the key is just to go after those people and not say yes to all the people that are going to give you a headache. What I have found is, the 20% that are a pain in the arse are the ones that take up 80% of your time. And they cost you 80% of your profits, and it's just not worth it. Just let them go and just focus on the people that I think there's a lot of people that change their product because of feedback where they're like, oh, it doesn't do this, so they'll go, oh, we'll do that as well, instead of going, we don't do that. Let's get more of the people that loved it, because there's always someone that loves it and someone that goes, oh, it's a bit thing. Instead of keeping them happy, why don't you just profile that person and get more of them?
Yeah, to be honest, I totally understand that. And even on my journey, I didn't even realise that while people are always looking for a good service provider, whatever that is, that you also want a good client.
Yeah.
You want to know the difference between what a good client is and what a bad client is, because, like you say, some will waste your time, some will waste your resources, and I've seen the difference now between good clients that really want to work with you versus people that don't really want to work with you. And it's very obvious that you should be trying to work and spend as much time with the right people. Yeah.
Some of that does come from you not being able to portray your value though. And a lot of that just comes from pitching. Like if I say, oh, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I kind of do this and that, and I'll do whatever you want me to. That's a bit flaky. So then you get pushed around. You're not empowered in what you do. Therefore, they'll push you around. Whereas if you're very clear and you say, look, I help, people over 50 get a 6-pack. That's it. That's what I do. And then it's very right. Okay, I'm over 50. I want a 6-pack. I'll pay you what you're asking. Mm-hmm. And there's no, oh, can you do this? Can you do that? Being pushed around. So it's much to do with how you pitch what you do and pitch your worth. Having a unique angle on something is really important.
How did you learn that yourself?
It's one of those things. Like when I think back at the car wash, one of our neighbours, when we was trying to pitch the car wash to someone called Terry, this Irish lady, I remember selling it to her like, we've got squeegees, which no one else uses. It's like, we got a squeegee, with a drain the water off the window. And I remember actually saying, we've got a squeegee, and that makes us different from all the other car washing. and I think that's part of your pitch, right? So it sets you aside from other car washes. But maybe it was part of that drive just to influence people to give me more security and freedom, right? I don't know. Mm-hmm. But over the years, I've had loads of great entrepreneurial mentors and friends. Daniel Priestley, who wrote Key Person of Influence, he talks about pitch being one of the main parts of becoming a key person of influence. And I learned a lot from him on pitching. But yeah, it's just something that I work on continuously, being really clear. Whether you're pitching an investment idea or pitching a product or just pitching to get someone to work for you, what I've really found out is you have to be really clear, like clear cut. Everyone needs to know everything from the outset. Otherwise, there'll be some breakdown or some flakiness, and it always causes problems.
Yeah.
So everything's a pitch. He says you're always pitching. You get what you pitch for.
I think the on that statement about being clear cut from the beginning, I think the only thing I struggled with that along the journey is business evolves and changes all the time. So the issue that you got is where you might have a pure intention of this is what it is right now. It can change and evolve, and sometimes that can create difficult conversations to have.
Definitely
later on down the line.
Oh, I'm not saying I'm a master of this stuff. You know, by a long shot. In fact, part of my delegation skills has been driven by the fact that I don't want to deal with people. I'm terrible at dealing with people. I don't like contracts, and I don't like dealing with staff. Feelings, and I just don't understand people like that. I understand why they're like that, but I feel like I can't communicate in a way where they'll understand. Yeah, I just want everyone to just understand and be like me, but they're not. So
that is the complicated thing about business and employing people is everyone's just got a different persona or a different character, and you've got to learn to kind of like shape around them individuals.
But everyone's at work for them. So they're not at work for you. They're at work for them, right? So everyone's got their own desires and needs and personal lives and things they want to spend their money on. So what we found best is if you can, we tailor our contracts to people's personal values. So they fill out a value discovery process form, which basically tells us what they love most, what they prioritize most in their life. And then we see if we can work a contract into helping them see how they're going to get more of what they want if they help us give more of what we want. And if there's a match there and we can make it work, then great, they get a tailored contract to that. But if they don't, then we can't work with them. So that helps. Just understanding that everyone's got a job for them, not you. It helps you keep reevaluating their own values. They might move house and they need more money, but they've got plans to have a family. There's going to be a value shift there that you need to be on top of with your business. I know it don't feel like your job, but it is, because they'll go somewhere else if somewhere else can serve that family, home and baby 100%. Plan better, right? So just being aware of that, and I think entrepreneurs just aren't, because I just want to get this idea done, and it's like, why can't everyone just
fall in line?
Why can't everyone just do it? It's not like that.
To be fair, it reminds me, because a big one for me was Gary Vee. He helped inspire my entrepreneurial world, and there was the difference between the micro and the macro. And I think kind of like this kind of small mindedness, or why do I have to do this? It's not a sustainable, prosperous future. You have to keep looking at the bigger picture all the time, and and I think that's something that served me a lot of the time is constantly focusing up here rather than the minor detail. Because people are essentially the best and sometimes the worst thing when it comes to running a business with people. But I suppose the work that you do now, you're either serving people or you're doing the trading, which is a balance of both. There was a time when I was just trading for about 18 months, and that's all I was doing. And it was a time where it was quite lonely. I put on a lot of weight because I was just at home, like eating at the fridge, and you do lose this sense of meaning and fulfillment, because you only get fulfillment from helping someone. So when you're not helping any business that's a zero-sum business like boxing or poker or trading or whatever it might be, it's not fulfilling. You're not helping anyone. That's why a lot of sports personalities go into sponsorship deals or charity or things like that, because they want that altruistic side to balance out the narcissistic side, right? So it's the same with trading. And after a while, I just felt like it was just selfish, like really, really, I'm just making money. And you long for fulfillment. You want to feel like you're doing something, and trading doesn't provide that. So that's when I started just sharing my live trades with people, and at least building a little community of people that would come and watch and join with me every day. And that was free. Like, we were just trading. I was just showing them my live account. And the reason behind that is because there was so much rubbish out there and so many scams and snake oil salesmen that I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do this for free and just like share my trades. We did that, built a great community, and then it got to the point where we was obviously having a charge because we was
I was paying out my own money for this server upgrade and to get more people on this webinar thing, and it became great. But by doing it that way, you end up with a long, loyal, community of like fans and family and friends, and you play a longer game, whereas anyone can kind of get rich quick by selling a dream, and that's never what I wanted. So I've been, and I think being in the position I'm in and taking the route that I took is the power that allowed me to be able to take that approach as well, because I don't need money. I can build businesses I can literally build a business and say, how can I give this to people where they don't need me after this? Or how can I build this product where they can just have it for free? And I can do that. And the magic with that is you earn more money doing that, because it's people trust you more, they want to buy more from you, and it's incredible. It's just been a really great way to go into business.
It's quite funny how there's this evolutionary mindset through entrepreneurship. I keep saying it, but where you strive to get to a place where you're financially free, but then when you get up that mountain, it's like, okay, well, what's the next challenge? Yep. Because it can't just be necessarily always about making money all the time.
Exactly,
how can we help people? How can we serve people?
It's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, actually. You climb a mountain and you look at all the other mountains and you think they look cool. You don't actually look at the mountain you're on. But not only that, you do, there isn't a enjoyment of life for me is just accepting that you're always just going to be up to stuff. This idea that you'll give up one day and sit on a beach with cocktails, no one would want to do that. Like, no one. There's maybe for a couple of weeks, but the only people that say it are the people that hate their situation now. So they can't possibly think about wanting to work because their work is something they associate with something that they've had to do. Had to do. And if you build a life where you're building a vocation out of something you're truly inspired to do, it's not work. Yeah. So that's what you just want to do for the rest of your life. So it's like, well, I'm living. So if I can get paid to live, why wouldn't I want to do that forever? And that's it. So
yeah, I totally agree with that, to be honest with you. And I've had probably, since starting my own business, I've had a lot less holidays compared to what I was like.
Right.
And there's that kind of fear of leaving your business behind. But I also actually quite enjoy my life in the UK doing what I do. So, I think some people probably want to escape while other people are busy building a life for themselves.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like. So
I've been through the phases of holiday where I couldn't wait to go on holiday to get away, to escape my life. And then I got through the phase of holidays were stressful because I was away from doing what I love doing. And now I'm at the phase where I could just go on holiday and enjoy the holiday because I don't have to worry.
You're good at switching off now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've also got this program yourself that you help people build their own wealth.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I started obviously evolving from the whole trading community thing, teaching people how to trade and all the rest of it. And what I found was there was a lot of people who weren't ready to trade. So back in 2017, 2018, I started doing a lot of networking with entrepreneurs, and obviously I had people trying to learn to trade and things like that. And what I noticed was there was a lot of people who just weren't ready for trading. They couldn't manage their own money, right? So imagine trying to go into trading when you can't pay the bills. It's like the most ridiculous thing to try and do.
Why is that?
You're trying to learn an advanced skill that demands poise of you, demands neutral, balanced, calm mind.
I've heard this before,
right?
Yeah.
And you're doing that by trying to learn to trade when you're fretting about paying the gas bill. You can't do it. In fact, there was a study done in southern India where they interviewed 56 cities across southern India with the farmers when there was a drought or when farming was low, their IQ literally dropped 30% or something around that, right? And then when it was booming again and the market and the trade was great, their IQ raised, right? So that actually says that you can't learn. Your IQ drops when you're in a level of poverty, which means you cannot learn complex skills and you cannot think. You go back into animal brain mode where you're just binary. You're thinking about on and off. It's not thinking about like creativeness and calculations and decision-making processes. You're not there. So the very approach that you're taking, learning to trade when you're in poverty, is the thing that is stopping you from being able to learn to trade. So it's like flawed. So I started spending the time with all these people and they all had the same approach. And I started just talking to them about other financial, strategies, like how do you do your banking in your business, and how do you do, what do you save, and how often do you save, and what do you invest, and how do you manage your money when you get paid. And I started to uncover like all these kind of horror stories of, all these different entrepreneurs. And basically I just sat down and mapped out what I'd done from 22 years old to 29 years old. And I said, this is literally like the bit that you need before trading. So I said, would this be of interest? And I started pitching this idea to these entrepreneurs. And I said, well, would it be useful if it had this? And they're like, oh yeah, would it have that as well? And I'm like, well, yeah. And I built this program to a demand of conversation. And obviously that gives you confidence that it's going to sell because there's a demand for it already. And then we just, we dropped it. And from that day, we've had just unbelievable amounts of life-changing stories. It's just been amazing, incredible.
And do you do that by yourself, or do you have a team of people?
Yeah, I've got a small team, but something I do, something we do non-negotiably is work on delegation straight away. So there's systems for everything, there's training for everything, there's processes for everything. Everything's as lean as possible, automated as possible. And yeah, it's the love of my life. Like I go on and talk to the members and try and give them, more and more value. But other than showing up once a month to a meeting, that's pretty much it. And then it runs on my team. Set the sales and everything. Just take part on a daily basis. Just delegated through my team.
And is it solely focused on trading what you do, or is it?
No.
Do you help other types of businesses?
Yeah, so Tier 1 was the trading company. I basically built Tier 2 and Tier 3. So Tier 3 is all about your personal finances, getting that in order, getting the house in order, your mindset right, getting your banking structure set up and everything. And then Tier 2 is all about investing passively and investing in stocks and basically growing your income. So there's a big business section on that, on because everything's about freedom, right? So how I would start a business isn't how most people would start a business, where they go and open a shop, print out leaflets, print out business cards, all that kind of stuff. Everything's about freedom of time, mobility and time. So how can I do it from everywhere in the world, and how can it take as little as possible time? So all of my business strategy is all based around lean, automated processes, but also making it feel real and giving great value to the client. So I've really worked on trying to perfect that. And then obviously after that, you've got money coming in, you've got money in the markets. You got your feet wet in the markets a little bit. Then there's a lifestyle section, how to spend money, how to exploit loopholes, I guess, in like using credit cards and how to buy houses, how to buy cars, how to finance cars, how to use credit cards, other people's money. And then there's the trading aspect. So once you've got a bit of money, like you start a business, you're in a position where you've got a bit more free time, you can think a little bit more, you've got a little bit of cash in the bank, that's when you trade. Trading is a money growing business, not a money making business, despite what all these kids are telling you on Instagram. It's not. You don't make money trading, you grow money trading. So you have to have something to start with. And you can't put £1,000 in an account and make 100 grand. You can't, honestly. So yeah, it's been a really nice, fulfilling life teaching people that, because there's nothing bad anyone can say. There's no, it's all truth. And when they do get the results, I can really feel great, and I can look my kids in the eye and go to sleep at night in 60 seconds.
Because I think that's, I don't know if it's just me or whether it's just other people as well, but I've always seen trading as something
Scam.
that a scam.
Yeah.
Pretty much a scam.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's how you're trying to convince people that it isn't one. I suppose that's the challenge in itself.
Yeah, that's why my first approach to the whole kind of, like, I was an electrical engineer. I'd never spoke to a camera or anything, right? And my approach to getting my message out about trading is harder than it looks, because that's really what I wanted to say, was just to show them me trading. So instantly there was nothing that anyone could say that was negative, because I would literally come down in my pants, switch on my webcam, put on my screen, open my live account and say, right, let's scour the market today and have a look, and I'll talk about what I'm thinking. And it turns out that was really valuable to people. So instantly it cut out all of the BS, because there was no smoke and mirrors. There was nothing. It was the most vulnerable position I could possibly be in as a retail trader, and just went from there.
It's just it's quite funny, because even being on the journey myself, I think I've just seen that anything that you decide that you put your focus and attention to, it's going to take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years before it actually really becomes quite successful.
Yeah.
I suppose the challenge in the trading market is trusting the person that you're listening to.
Oh yeah, totally.
That it's actually going to turn into what it's meant to, because it's not an overnight success trading, is it? So any more than it is any other business.
No, totally. I get that though, and that really has only become a thing in the last 10 years, where it's hard to trust. Because before it was like, well, the guy's trading, he must be from a desk, or he's got some history at a trading desk or a prop firm or something. And it's like, well, yeah, there's limited knowledge about this stuff. Fast forward 10 years and there's 16-year-old kids on TikTok saying they've been trading, and it's like, well, really? And people believe it. That's the worst thing. People actually believe these kids are making money, and it's like, oh man. So yeah, it's difficult. There's a lot of noise out there, but the one thing, if you go back, what you will find is, if you look at people's content, this is where it kind of shoots them in the foot. Go back 5 or 6 years, 10 years, and look at their content, and their message just changes and changes and changes, and they're trying to jump on this trend and that trend, right? If you go back to my first YouTube video or my first live trading room, it's identical as what it is today. Exactly the same. I've been saying the same thing for 8 years, 9 years on YouTube, and 10 years or whatever it is on the live room, and it's the same thing. So there's a lot to be said for that, because it's someone who's got some values, got some strategy that works, and does it on a daily basis. Whereas you look at some of the others, and they're like NFTs and then Bitcoin, and it's like this and that and the other. You're like, hang on a minute, you said anyone could trade 10 years ago. Now you're saying you need a good personality or something, and it's like they're trying to catch on to whatever the bite is. Yeah.
It's quite funny, because I have people messaging me all the time where they've got like this luxury lifestyle. You'll see them on planes, on jets, cars, and everything like that, and they'll literally say trader, and all I see it as them as a way of trying to take your money.
Yeah, I mean, I cringe really identifying as a trader. Like, that's not my identity. It's something I do to grow my money. It's not really I'm a trader. And I think anyone that identifies as a trader, you've got to question that, right? And how they're selling the thing as well. It's like, if you're showing boats and yachts and Lambos, like, why? Why don't you show me how good you are and what you're delivering? Show me some of your clients' results. Show me some testimonials. So we're very much along the lines of, hold the spotlight on people we get results for. And it all goes back to that whole get paid for results. So we've always been focused on, look, I'm going to get this person their goal, get them funded, or get them investment money, or get them trading that inheritance or that cash cow that they've built up. And I want a testimonial from that person. How can I get a testimonial from that person? I need them to be actually trading and get a good result. So then we make sure that we get that, we're patient, and then we wait for a testimonial, and we get the testimonial.
So what do they do? Do they give you their money for you to work with, or
no,
they just pay you a fee?
No, we just run an education company. So we've got a series of trading courses from beginner to day trading, and we coach them through that program. So they can still come in and watch me trade live 3 days a week. My partner Akil, who trades a New York session, they come in and watch him 3 days a week. So it's like an immersive view on real trading. And then a Monday we have a Q&A, and a Friday we have an accountability session, and we basically just push them through and make sure they're getting results. And we show up, we're there with them on a weekly basis, not hiding because we've taken their money and who cares what they get. It's now my goal to get you the result I said I would get you, and that is that's the entire approach from Tier 1.
Well, what would you say the best success story you've seen for one of your clients?
Best success story is we've had multiple traders gone off and work in Midtown Manhattan for prop firms over there. S&B Capital's one of them. They've seated a few of our traders that we've brought up from nothing. Now they've gone over there. They're managing multiple millions. But the best personal story of one retail trader is a guy named Greg, who took some money out of his house, sold his house, put a portion of that into a trading account and the rest into a series of diversified investments that we kind of picked together. And then he took that money into his trading account, and he made £1 million, and he went over to Sydney and just moved out there.
Lived his life.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him since, but yeah, no, I have. But it was amazing. Yeah, it's good to see. And there's a couple of students that were 22, and then by the time they were 25, they were trading full-time income as well. So it's not this overnight. You can do it overnight.
Get rich quick.
22 to 25 years old. That's an amazing result for me. That's a great result, and I can do that for people. But I'm not going to get you quitting your job tomorrow. And if you find anyone that says they can do that, I would definitely run a mile or take it with a pinch of salt at best.
Yeah, I think it's the long game in all of this. Like anything that you've got a passion towards, a project, it's not the next 10 days, but the next 10 years, what that looks like for you.
And passion with trading, I mean, that is a big part of it. You have to actually be interested in the markets. I'm a geek. Like I get up 4 a.m. and I'm looking through charts. That's not what most people want to do. Most people who tell themselves they want to be a trader is because they've seen a kid on Instagram doing it. It's not because they actually have a desire to figure out this puzzle that's forever ongoing that you're never going to crack. For me, that is what I love about it, and I'll do it till I die probably. But it's
you find the next thing that you want to put your teeth into.
Yeah, or something that So like in lockdown, on the 3rd of April, I had my biggest trading day ever. It's close to $170,000 over 18 hours. It's about 130.
You made that?
Yeah,
did you?
132 grand. That was my biggest day. It was over 18 hours, 6 trades. I won 5, lost 1, and day 1 was about 122, and then the next day was another 7 or 8, and it was about $168,000. It worked out to at the time, and that was called the 100K day in our house, and we celebrated, but I got a bit cocky, and the next day I was so emotional that I stopped trading, and I haven't day traded since that day. So I haven't day traded since that happened. And there's a number of factors that went into that. Obviously, COVID had just hit. It was the 3rd of April, right, 2020. Everything had just been locked down. I was like, I've had a really good run here. You're thinking, do I give it all back tomorrow? Am I going to lose? Is something not right? So I was like, I need to reframe. I need to see what's going on, make sure that I've stuck to the plan. I kind of felt like I knew what the market was going to do for a bit, and as soon as you get that cockiness, you need to reevaluate yourself because you never know what the market's going to do. So I decided to stop, and then it was like, okay, well, what's happening in the world? Take a little bit of a step back. I was still swing trading, like I always do that. But I took the money and I redistributed it across my portfolio and put a bit more into some angel investments. And, I'm always trying to manage the whole pot wisely rather than, I've got to trade all the time, or I've got to do this, I've got to do that. So I'm open to, we just took tens of thousands of pounds we just put into into one of Daniel Priestley's businesses that he started. So we just said, oh, I'll let you build that one and I'll put a bet on that.
Diversify.
So, yeah, exactly. So I'm not a trading snob. Like, it's not like trading's the be all and end all. When there are times like that, I will reshuffle everything if I need to.
Well, I think from my perspective, it's definitely good to put your money into different places because you never know what's going to happen any day of the week. So, and if they all do good, then it's even better.
If they all do good, the pain of that is if you're too blended, you could put your money into 10 stocks, say, and one doubles in size, and you've only increased your net worth by 10%.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said for actually getting that right, picking the right amount of stocks and the right diversity in sector and, asset and, different companies. So there's a lot to be said for that, but it's a whole strategy on its own.
So you spoke about your biggest win. I'm curious to know what your biggest loss was.
32 grand.
Was it 32 grand?
Yeah, 32. I've had a couple of, one was 28, one was 32. 32 is technically my largest loss in one. It wasn't one trade, but it was one session. So, yeah.
Which is not bad considering what your biggest win was in comparison.
No. I always, risk maximum 1% of my account on any one trade. And, again, play the long game. Shoot for a 2.5 to 1 minimum and play the odds. I'm no better than a 60% trader. So I lose 4 trades in every 10. And always... I won't say I always will. Maybe I'll get to 7. Maybe I'll get to 8. Maybe one day. But that is the ongoing process that you have to love. So how can I solve this puzzle that's unsolvable?
It's forever changing. You've just got to keep changing with it. I take it.
You've got to keep refining it, optimizing it, looking at the past data, and saying, well, how can I not leave money on the table there? How can I be more aggressive with stop loss? How can I maybe shoot for extended targets there, but not too much so that it rolls? So it's this forever going process of looking at what you've done, making sure your performance has got no flaws, and then going, how can we make more? How can we be right more, and how can we win more when we're right and lose less when we're wrong? That's basically it.
It's I don't trade, but considering the stuff that you talk about is very much around mindset, about not being emotional. They're very entrepreneurial things that you need to have along the journey, regardless of what you're specializing in. Even with this in business is not, not making actions out of emotions and stuff like that. I find that very kind of transferable even in what I do. So, I can definitely take something from what we're talking about today.
There's a lot of entrepreneurs that are terrible traders there. Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are terrible business people.
Yeah, that's
they build things that they think is a good idea. They don't actually build things that people want.
A necessary idea.
Yeah, people that actually, where there's demand. And if you'd just done that, you'd do a lot better, right? So you get these entrepreneurs with ideas that they think that they know what the market's going to do, or they have this idea of what their trading looks like, but it doesn't match up with that. So then they get the hump.
Right. And so I've also seen you've done some public speaking before.
Yeah.
What's that been around? Has that been around the trading or?
Yeah, I've spoken on a lot of investing stages and things like that. I was just at the London Trader Show Friday, speaking on the London Trader Show. Do lots of talks around investing, but we've recently had a massive success with our YouTube channel. So we're just about to hit 250,000 subs. But we, off the back of that, there's the ad rev, which is one thing, but we was able to generate about $6 million in a back-end ecosystem in 9 months. So
is that through the services that you were offering?
For the way that our business has been built in the back end, and that's what I've been asked to talk about. So in May, I'm speaking on stage with Stephen Bartlett, and just on Thursday this week, I'm at another business event in St Paul's Cathedral speaking about that topic as well. So, yeah.
And your YouTube, is it solely focused on trading?
No, wealth creation, just
creation,
financial freedom. Yeah. My podcast is called Always Free, and it's really about this idea of being free from societal constraint, free, empowered in your finances, free from the opinions of others, free to do what you want and build a life that you want, and being free to make decisions that you want to make. And all of that is built on financial security, because you're not pushed around in your finances. You're spending your money how you want to spend it. Therefore, you can build a life that you want to build. So it's basically around financial empowerment and wealth creation. But it covers all of the strategies that I use, from my personal banking to trading.
That depth. Yeah, right. That's interesting. So what's your kind of next part of the chapter for you? You're doing the trading. You've got your coaching program. Have you stepped into your next evolution of entrepreneurship, or are you currently in a place where you're quite happy doing what you're doing forever?
Yeah, I mean, I personally wanted to get into this so I could have more free time, and literally, like, for the last 3 months, I haven't done anything. Like, I've just sat at home playing guitar, messing in my music studio. We're building a new recording studio. I love that. And when people say, "What's the next thing? What's the big goal?" I haven't really got one. My goal now is to say the same thing for the next 20 years and grow and build a mass following of people that will still keep coming in and working with us and buying products and working with us and stuff. So I've gone heavily into angel investing. So, like, if you want to go and employ 20, 30, 70 staff and build a business and take it to exit, makes me want to vomit. I'll just give you some money and you do that. That's much better. And then I'll just rock up to a board meeting or something and go, "Oh yeah, great numbers." That's much better. And that's where I want to be. I don't have this big, like, I want to dominate the world. I don't. I really love my life, and that's what I want to live.
Do you think as well that you need to sacrifice a lot of hours at the beginning to then live a lot of free hours later on?
Yeah.
I kind of noticed that on the journey as well. Is I've worked my whole life since I was 16.
Yeah. And
only now at 33 am I able to actually start having more free time to myself.
Yeah, but you said something earlier about I can't remember what you said, but it was like the more you go on, you realise something else. And it's like, what I've found is the more independent you become, or you search for this independence, you gain more dependence on things, but you don't see it initially. So you have this fantasy and dream about what that looks like. But then when you get there, there's another dependency. So, like, now I spend all time at home with my wife. My wife has never had to work, and she's now seeking fulfillment outside of just keeping the home nice. She now wants to get a job. So, think about that. People couldn't imagine, all I want is just to not have to work. All she wants is to work.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't become fixated with this idea that there's a dream life, because when you have too much of something, you'll want the other side. You want the contrast. Otherwise, you can't appreciate a dream life you're living. So just accepting that, that knowing those things and loving those things is what I love about life. It's not so much, because I think a lot of people live in turmoil or have stress because they think there's this one-sided thing that they're trying to get hold of and they can't get it. When in actual fact, if you're aware of all the good and bad in every situation, you're going to have a really happy life. And that's probably what I'd etch on a stone and leave to the world if I could.
Because my dad's like this as well. Is that he finds purpose in the work that he does. He's 67, and I think he'll work forever. He'll just keep working
because it's not work.
Yeah, it's not work.
Tinkering, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And do you know what? I've also seen the danger in having too much time as well. I think you've got to be heavily responsible in that space where you get up and you do all the things that you're meant to be doing. Because when you're an entrepreneur or you're running your own business, you haven't technically got anyone to answer to.
Yeah.
So it's being ultimately responsible in that place that you're in along the journey. But I think I've just come to terms knowing that I've kind of put myself into another position, is that I need something to focus on. I need a project. I need to feel that purpose, that I'm trying to help people, serve people in different ways. So I can see the importance in that entrepreneur journey, because a lot of the time people will see, I can't wait to retire as something to work towards, which, best of luck for a lot of people. But, unless you've got kind of like a really fruitful life at that stage, it can also be quite a dangerous one.
You imagine, I mean, you put that into context, you retire from a job that you hate. All of a sudden you're in this alien world of being home with your partner who you've not spent every day with. You've got, you've got time to think and dwell and think about what you haven't done. And you see a lot of marriages go down the pan at that point because you've got time to realise actually who you really are. 2, you realise that you just don't have anything with the person you've been with for all those years because, and then you've got all these new things that you want to do. So you almost become like, it's almost like the turning point for like the split and realisation of actually, I've been doing it wrong all these years, and now I want some other struggle. And it's like
another mountain to climb.
Yeah, another mountain to climb.
Yeah.
So just being aware of that and just making sure that you are living a life. Again, this is what Always Free is about: living a life that you design and you are on purposely. Because if you're not, you are, when the curtain's pulled at some point, you're going to realise what you're living, and then you're going to question yourself, and that comes with some challenge. And you're best just to do what you want to do now, rather than work towards doing what you want to do. Try not to escape your job to go on holiday. Try and have the holiday, and then you have to go to work to escape the holiday. It's like it's a different mindset. So
no, so that's a good way of putting it. To be fair, and I think. Even I spent a long time working for a company where you kind of have a bit of a blindfold on.
Yeah.
But I suppose that, the point that you're making is like we all get to design our own lives.
We do.
And rather than waiting for it to come to us, we're better off going to it, essentially.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense. I mean, was there anything you wanted to mention before we finish today?
I'd say, like, if you've enjoyed my nasal tones rambling on about my life for an hour, all I'd ask is you check out my podcast. It's called Always Free, and I'd just say listen to episode 1, because when I launched that, I did it in order of what I recommend you do first and second and third and fourth. And if you're still listening at episode 6, just send me a message and let me know what you think.
Well, Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today.
Likewise.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Cheers for having me.
Yeah, look forward to seeing what's next for you.
Yeah, great. Cheers.
Cheers.